Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Line Change, the NHL betting podcast from the Action Network, presented to you by BetMGM. My name is Michael Leboff. Joining me, as always, is Nick Martin. And Nick, we will be looking at Friday and Saturday in the National Hockey League Stanley Cup playoffs, round 2. Game 5 for Florida, Toronto. Game 5 for Edmonton, Vegas. And then on Saturday will be Seattle and Dallas game 6. As they're still playing right now as we're recording. Dallas is up 3-2 heading into the intermission. So a lot to get to here. I think Friday round 2, if no matter what, hockey, unless you're a fan of one of the teams that is in it, and especially to the Carolina Hurricanes fans, I think round 2 is kind of underwhelmed compared to round 1. That's not a hot take. Everyone keeps saying that. Things kind of picked up today, overtime game between Carolina and New Jersey. Seattle and Dallas, it was 3-0 Dallas, and Seattle fought back. But betting aside, I think Friday has the potential to be the best night of this round for sure. And we'll start with Florida in Toronto. Toronto comes back home after taking game 4 in a 2-1 effort. I thought that the game plan there was pretty evident from the start. Toronto just committing itself to really gumming up things in the middle of the ice. They did a great job defensively. Thought that was a really well played game. There were some quotes out there that was their best game of the season. Sure, maybe given the spot.
I think for the stuff that those kinds of analysts love, then yes, I'd give it to them.
Yeah.
Probably their best defensive game of the year, I think.
I think when you talk about like the stakes and whatever and pressure, sure. They won an elimination game, and
That's true, because that's why I went against my Toronto takes, because kind of went against my belief in this team just because of how hard of a spot I felt like it was to kind of turn the negativity, and Florida's playing really well, and
yeah,
you got Joseph Wall versus Bobrovsky, so
I actually haven't. I didn't want to ask you this like just in our casual conversations that we have while we're watching the game, because as soon as that game ended, my first thought was, do they try to do this again? Because I think that when you have your back against the wall and you're going to have it against the wall for every game for the rest of the series, if no matter how long it goes, there's a couple different ways you can approach it, and one of them is to just do what the Leafs did, commit yourself to forcing the other team to power their way through you, make yourself hard to beat. But I don't think that's what we really associate Toronto with. They're more of a team that you'd think goes out and tries to beat their opponent, because they're usually got more talent, and they'll just bet on that. So my question is, do we see the Leafs kind of abandon what worked for them in game 4 and play more into the and they were good defensively during the regular season. I'm not saying they weren't, but they weren't that. They didn't play like that. So do you think that they'll push the pedal to the metal a little more here in game 5? And is that the right thing to do? Like, I don't know. I have no idea how they're going to approach this one, and or how they should, honestly.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much the way games are going to look the rest of the series. Like, that's quietly been the way Leafs elimination games have gone for like 4 years. They won one, and like they were the team that was really good defensively, but that's kind of been more or less the game script. I don't know if, I mean, early on,
you're asking to get the bounces, and if you do that,
right, that's exactly. I see your point. Like, you've got to win 4 in a row in like coin flip type games, but like, what are they going to change it? Like, it worked good. It's probably still giving yourself the best chance. Florida's going to be opportunistic. You got to insulate Joseph Wall pretty well. and
I thought he's the
probably
second
not
coming
calling
from
much. And I mean, to be fair, his numbers all
yeah,
year are great. Like we are
yeah,
kind of picking on him in terms of like the idea that
just
he is
experience, right?
unproven. Yeah. So, and I mean, he was sharp in that game, but they did really, really good. Like
Yeah,
if you watch the reel back, it was like giving up one goal was probably about what we'd see out of most goalies, I think. And I'm sure like the team could probably, get some confidence because he did look sharp early and that probably helped. But who knows? They're probably not going to defend a ton better than that. So we'll see. And then we know as the series goes on, the whistles are going to go away. I think kind of Florida's shown that they like working in that game environment a little more. So that's maybe one interesting note. When we talk about this game, I don't really see much betting value here. I'm not back to wanting to get on the Leafs yet. Like they're minus 175 in this
yeah.
game.
I
Feels like
once that game ended and I
that's
saw that line post, I was cracking up because they were minus 150, right? Was that what we said for game 3 in Florida? Then they go down to they went off minus 115 by the time the puck dropped, and now they're back up to minus 175 at home. The swings in this playoffs, and we've talked about the zigzag maybe coming into play in hockey, and just the maybe momentum being it's always overrated in playoff series, always in terms of betting value. But this one, I was just like, I think Florida has shown that they're better than what we thought they were going to be before the series, and this is kind of where these prices, we're
yeah,
hanging
like
around.
they're back up to plus 155. I don't know if you're going to see the Leafs dominate the way you want for a team at that. And that's one of the things like you want to bet on these playoff games, but that's what I keep seeing with like I faded the Stars tonight, which probably isn't going to work out well. But when I think about something like that, there's so many regular season games where teams minus 200, and I'll love them so much more than like Dallas tonight or Florida
Right.
or Toronto tomorrow minus 175. So
Right,
I
because
think that's kind of
they're playing teams like Detroit.
yeah,
Like,
and like you know the if the games aren't as tight, like skill shows through more sometimes. It just feels like sometimes in the playoffs it is harder on that front. And then this series has been like for me personally, it's been rough, but I don't think my takes have been that bad either. Like I was riding Nylander, he comes through in game 4. I was riding the Leafs. Then I get sucked into Florida because it was plus 110, and the way the games have gone felt like a good coin flip number. That doesn't work out. I think first glance, like it seems like a pretty tough one. I could be interested in going under on wall saves. Again, I did put that in my same game parlay article for game 4. We'll see where it gets set at. But I think that could potentially be a good look under 30.5 because I don't really think the script's going to change that much. I think it's just going to be another really tight game. So that's maybe one I'm interested in. I still think Nylander's playing really, really well.
yep.
One thing that I really think the Leafs should do as a team, I know the power play's clicking, but it always clicks. So that doesn't really prove a lot. Having O'Reilly on the top power play unit for me doesn't make a lot of sense. The biggest issue when things don't go well is still gaining the zone. Nylander is excellent at gaining the zone with controlled entry. He's been one of the most prolific power play producers. I don't think it makes a lot of sense. And then the other thing is you have all 3 of your centers on the ice for that. And the second it ends, you got to sort this out. You've got a mess of lines. So then they're always doing some combination of the 4th line with Nylander out there. I don't know. I think that doesn't make sense. It's one of those things. And I think there's a couple notes like this entering this game where they're not changing it because it's worked, but I don't think that means that it is the ideal way to do it. So we'll see. That's something to watch. I think same thing with Nyes. It sounds like he is close, but they're just going to not put him in because the lineup worked last game, which I guess is respectable. You don't want to get him in there and then lose a body, but it feels like that's
I would be
Sheldon Keefe.
surprised if
He's
played.
not
Not
going to
even
change
just
anything.
yeah, I know that. Not just that. I just think that it was a concussion, and he's 20, whatever, 21.
Yeah, I liked the take. I saw that him getting tackled and concussed proved that he wasn't ready because it's like saying that nobody else gets concussed.
Yeah.
I think would be kind of if you're saying that would be your argument. But
No,
Anyways,
I just think that he's like it. It'd be unfair to the two of
yeah,
them.
it'd be tough to rush him back
Yeah.
in, and it's such a bad look. Like we
Yeah,
saw the
exactly.
freaking Dolphins this year, how big of a shit show that was, and you know, I just you don't want to do that.
One point that kind of relates to what my general kind of question about this game is the home games for the Leafs. They're able to get the matchups they want, which I think is a pretty big deal when the other team has Mark Stahl on one of the defense pairing, and that fourth line for Florida struggled on the road. They were better. I thought they were fine in Sunrise, but that's, I think, going to help Toronto a little bit, and that's why I'm wondering if this thing's going to open up a little bit more than what we saw. And I think kind of plays into your Joseph Woll thing, which is I see the Leafs really this looking like game 1 and 2 actually, and that might be sound simple because it's in Toronto, but uh, with the way that they should be able to get matchups and control play, they should this famous last words, they should come out with their hair on fire
Yeah,
at home. Like it does feel like it's going to be a weather the storm kind of game for Florida. It's almost like Florida, their best chance in this game is to just copy what Toronto did in game 4.
right. And I think that's been the recipe for teams, for underdogs beating Toronto in all these knockout games for years. And just because of the way they want to play in the offensive zone and attack and hold the puck,
Right.
I think you just want to be safe. And that ties into my next thought. I think if Florida is holding like a 2-1 lead midway through the second or something like that, I think the live under could be a really good play. Just because that seems to be the way that these Leafs elimination games go. I know that doesn't mean it has to be a rule, but I get the feeling that a lot of the reasons that it's gone that way historically are still kind of in place. Last year versus Tampa, I went on the Leafs live team total under because it just felt like, one of those perfect looks. And I could see this kind of being that way. So I feel like it's going to be a tight game. And I think there could be some potential for some good live plays on that as well.
So that's 7:00 Eastern time. 10:00 Eastern time is Edmonton and Vegas. Oilers tie it up 2-2. The Oilers are just patterning out their playoffs here for us. I mean, it looks like the Stars might be as well. Just go drop 2 of the first 3 and come back and take over the series from there. That said, it's still 2-2. We're going to Vegas. Edmonton is a road favorite, -130. That's about where they've been for the first 2 games of the series as well in Vegas. Over-unders at 7. 3 of the 4 games have gone under the total here, but there've been some laughers involved, and the series just has been very it's not been fun to watch as a neutral, I don't think, at all.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it hasn't been like many compelling back and forth games.
Yeah.
Game 1 was good. Probably didn't deserve to be good, but I mean, the Oilers made it competitive, so it was watchable, but that hasn't really been a consistent trend in this series.
No. And it's been herky-jerky. It's like the team that loses just doesn't show up.
And then they take a bunch of dumb penalties.
Yeah, it's
just like gets out of hand. Like half the reason people thought the last game was exciting was there was melees at the end and stuff, which I guess is interesting if you're still watching the game, but it's been pretty painful.
Yeah, I just woke up and was like, all right. And I saw the Pietrangelo slash and him get smoked by Kane, and I'm like, oh, well, that's that's what I missed. But yeah, I guess we should just note that Darnell Nurse, that suspension is absolutely a joke.
Them being 1-1 is a joke. Yeah. I know that Vegas has some valid arguments that Pietrangelo had been cross-checked, that maybe that should have been one.
But that's not the guy who did it.
Like Pietrangelo getting 1, I think it was a horrific call. I think every single person that I've talked to has said that they were like expecting 2. But low key, I knew that it was going to be 1. Like I was so sure in my head that this is
like, you have to kill somebody
in that, or accidentally clip their head. If you clip their head, they'll give you 5. Which I'm not even arguing that that's wrong. My point is that if there's a play like this where it's so unnecessary, the entire point of it has nothing to do with playing the game. You can just come down and be like, you like, you know what I mean? Like if you set
Right.
a higher
So
standard, you're
the
not going to have
question
this
for
shit
me would be
happen.
like if you're Zach Dalpe of the Florida Panthers and you're losing
Yeah, why
5-1
not?
tomorrow, why wouldn't you just two-hand Austin Matthews in the wrist?
There's no
Seriously,
reason. Your
right?
team would love you. They'd
Yeah.
probably, you'd be having a set of
Get a
new
statue
Rolexes.
built for yourself outside of Florida Live Arena or something because
Yeah.
it
And
like
that's the problem is I think they'd let the envelope get pushed too far over and over in this series. I don't, and I mean, to be fair to them, I think some of this stuff was really tough. Like, I don't think you could really give a playoff game for it, but it just felt like this series slowly got a little too off the rails. I don't know if we'll see that in this next game unless there's another blowout.
right,
But,
exactly.
and then
It's score dependent, I think.
to talk, betting wise, we've talked about during the playoffs, odds makers have been sharper and smarter, which they were here because I was sitting there waiting to see if I could find anything Ekholm or Shea Theodore related, especially because it kind of coincides with the fact that I think offensively Shea Theodore is due for a little better and that he has had an abnormal amount of shots blocked for someone who's usually actually pretty decent at getting them through. I think that I'll probably still end up on over 2.5 shots. I was just hoping to get the exact same number as I got in game 4 when I lost on this bet. So I was watching all day for that. They had it suspended all day. It's back up now. I think it's around plus 125, which is playable. And then the other one, I think Ekholm's really interesting because even more so than Theodore, I think the Oilers are going to be so forced to play him huge minutes without Nurse being the other top left defender. And he will draw into the second power play, which doesn't mean a lot because that's probably like 20 seconds of power play time every power play. But still, I think Ekholm's a very reasonable look. I think he has 6 shots in the last 2 games anyways.
Yeah,
so
goal.
Yeah, he's a guy that I'm going to keep my eye on for this one.
I think the over is in play here at 7 plus 115. And it comes down to the goaltending. We might see Jonathan Quick.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Oilers in the over too. If we're talking sides, I think those will be the square takes. But like, I agree.
The goaltending,
this goaltending situation's awful.
I don't know who I would.
Yeah, I'm seeing people being like, "How is Quick not come in?" Have a look at Quick's numbers. I think he's near the absolute bottom.
He hasn't played in a month.
He hasn't played in a month, and there's kind of a reason. Like,
right. You want to put in.
I'm seeing a lot of ex-players commenting on this.
Yeah, I mean, I think
it's kind of like saying, if you're an ex-player, go out and jump in an NHL game right now and see how you do. Like, I feel like that's kind of what it is because you're rating so much on what Quick did in 2014.
And hell, like he could come out and stand on his head. But
for sure,
I would say so. Here's how I'd view this. If Jonathan Quick is in goal for Vegas tomorrow, I would love every bit of Edmonton. I would love, minus 2.5s. I'd love, whatever same game parlays with the over, goal scorer Palooza, like whatever you want to do. Go have yourself a night back in the Oilers.
Yeah. So Quick's, sorry, just to cut. So Quick's minus 17.2 goals saved above expected rating is the 5th worst in the league this season. His save percentage was .882. So, and I mean, when he was with the Kings,
decent.
That's what I was going to say. The Kings were a good defensive team too. Like, they're not a team where I'm looking at those numbers and being like, he was getting sewered more than these analytics are suggesting, which is something I would say about like goalies from Columbus and teams like that. I don't think that was happening. So who knows? Like, he had a couple good games right when he got to Vegas. Yeah. I mean, goaltending's hard to predict, but
he's the type of goalie that, let's see if I can get this out and make it make sense. Like there's probably a better chance that Jonathan Quick outright steals the game than Adin Hill, but there's a better chance that Adin Hill just gives you the solid NHL goaltending you need to win 5-4, right? Like if you have Jonathan Quick in and Hill wasn't good in the first period in game 4 and the Knights were never able to get back from that, but like if you're looking at these two goalies and you're like, who's giving me the better chance? Like if I was to bet Edmonton right now, I would feel so much better if they tapped Quick than Hill, and that's what I'll be waiting for because if it is Quick, like I think you can have yourself a really fun time with some Oilers stuff. So that's what I'll be
Yeah,
waiting
and I
for.
think there's definitely some good narratives for the over too, where this game could get really off the rails. Where if you wanted to play like some alt stuff, or if you're someone who
Yeah,
plays game
I
parlays,
mean,
it could
because
be fun.
Skinner's been all over the place too. Like
Yeah,
that's the
and
other thing.
penalties dry out as series wear along. However, you have to know that the refs are the one whoever refs this game tomorrow is being told by the league, like,
Yeah,
call it tight. Don't let any shit
first
go on.
yeah, the
First scrum, take just
first 10
one.
minutes. Yeah, first 10 minutes will be
Like
there'll
I
be
think it'll
like
be
3 power plays,
yeah. And
and
this
then
series
it'll
has
slow
had
down.
so many anyways.
Yeah.
Like I've kind of been waiting on the cool off, but I think tomorrow we'll see it called tight early on. So good.
Uh,
And oh, and you know what I should slide into? I actually think other prop I like is Ryan Nugent Hopkins over 2.5. He got back with
yeah,
McDavid last game, had the
he looked
goal.
good.
Yeah. So I think that number's not moved enough from where he was playing. Like he's been really quiet. He's not generating much on his own, but now he gets to play with McDavid. So easy case there.
Okay. Devils and Hurricanes are wrapped. Carolina Hurricanes are through to the Eastern Conference Final. They'll have at least a few, like a week off, I think, unless they start one without the other, which the NHL never does. So you tip your cap to Carolina, and that brings us to Seattle and Dallas. Like I said, they're still going right now for Game 5. Dallas up 3-2. I'm not too concerned with how this rest of this game plays out, because I think it's the same kind of this series more than the others. I'm just like I'm just going into my sled and riding it downhill until I get to the bottom of the hill, which is like the Kraken are just going to be undervalued. The Stars are going to be a little overvalued, and if you want to just if you want to zigzag or you want to back momentum, like go right ahead. But I'm just gonna stick with Seattle, and we'll see how it.
I was in your boat tonight. I was really thought the Kraken are the value side.
I mean, the number was great.
They haven't played bad,
No,
and I just
they
Dallas
got
converted
Grubauer
everything.
showed up, the real Grubauer.
Yeah, and those were
for
pretty
like 5 minutes. Yeah,
yeah, it was just one of those things. They happened, they broke down.
He was
give up.
making, he was
Yes.
making he was making one of those saves in the games that they've been winning.
Yeah,
like,
for
he's
sure.
But
and who knows? It's 3-2. Seattle's pushing. Maybe I'm hoping this gets to overtime. I've made a promise to someone that if the Kraken win this game in overtime, I will buy one of the teal Adam Larson third jerseys. So I will hold myself
for you or for that person.
For me. And I never wear non-Caps jerseys, but if they do that, I will be excited enough to do that. So you'll be seeing me online change sometime soon in that, if that's the case.
Yeah, when they're playing the Hurricanes in the Stanley Cup final, maybe.
Yeah, I'll give a shout out to the Hurricanes. I think you could say they're playing the best team hockey of any team right now, doing what they're doing.
And they were so lucky to beat the Islanders.
Yeah. You and
the Islanders, by the way, we still haven't heard from the general manager nor the head coach, and we're now almost 2 weeks from their locker room breakdown, so nobody knows what's going on there. Reached out to a couple friends of the programs who work for Sportsnet, and they're like, I got no idea either. So who knows there? But yeah, the Hurricanes. They are. I think I had it right with them going into the Devils series. Like, there's just such a stylistic nightmare for some teams, and they will be completely exposed against a select few teams, I think, in depending on like what the matchup is. And I guess the Devils just couldn't really figure it out. I thought Carolina was just swarming and so good at. I mean, the Devils should have won that game. I think they had some. I mean, Carolina had a couple good chances, but I thought
it was close. It was super close. Yeah,
it was. But I think like just the timing of the Devils' chances and. But anyways, yeah, tip of your cap to Carolina. They're a tough team to go against because they play such a like different.
Yeah, you have to think a rested Carolina would be a really bad matchup for Florida in particular. I think I think both you'd have to like their chances, but I feel like if Florida wins in like 7 and Carolina's just sitting there waiting for that ding decor.
Bad news for the
that would be tough.
Oh, well, actually, I did want to actually bring up Carolina, and we'll sign off with this. Is Um, we haven't really talked much about their Conn Smythe market at all
I
because who the
might know
hell
where you're going with this.
who the hell knows? Uh, Freddie Anderson, he was like 11. I can't pull up the number now because there's a game going on, but he was so short, and I couldn't believe it. And then I started to think about it, and I'm like, then he's got the narrative. He came in, he won the series win clincher against the Islanders, and he played really well against the Devils, barring one game. But I do think like the blow up potential is there for Freddie, like, and I think that the injury potential is there for Freddie, and I think that it's like 50-50, even if Carolina wins the Stanley Cup, that we see at least one game of Antti Ranta again, maybe two.
Yeah, like I don't think
So
that
if
seems
it's if
bold
it's
to me.
if
I
that's
don't.
if that's where you thought I was going, but my point using that is I got no like I guess it's Aho right now.
Yeah, I'm kind of coming around on Burns if you're going to take a long
yeah.
punt. But the interesting thing there is like I don't even think he's more valuable to them than Slavin, but
But
he's getting
he's
more
the
points.
and he's the 38-year-old with the beard and everybody loves him in the
Yeah,
media.
that's true. I wonder if he's got a bit of an edge. Who knows though? There's
Jordan
a
Martinook.
very up in there. That would be insane.
I forgot to
I
look
feel like
up.
he's got to slow down in terms of his production. I mean, this is a guy. It's an amazing
I mean, he
story.
high
He
stick
was
Mayfield
on
to get
waivers
yeah,
like earlier in the year, and now he's the best scorer in the
right.
playoffs. Uh,
But
it's pretty wild. You gotta
yeah,
love it though. Someone had to step up for them. Um, I'm gonna be kicking myself because this is the one year I've decided no, Carolina
yeah. So we were
couldn't do
talking
it
about
any of the other
matchups,
years.
but I think for them, almost bar except for Seattle, I just don't think that they match up well with the West. I mean, we'll get there when we get there.
I'd like the way they match up with Dallas really well. I
Yeah, I
think
think that
I texted you this today. I'm just accepting that I should put an exact on Carolina to beat Dallas in the final. Not that I hate either of the teams, but they're the ones that I find the least interesting and that I've kind of
yeah,
not.
we'll just have Noah or Matt, clip together the 37 times this season we said, yeah, not sold on Dallas,
I know, and that's the thing is like they're the two
and
teams
coming
that
into the playoffs,
so
being
many
like,
people had.
yeah, Carolina might beat the Islanders, but then they're gonna run into either New Jersey or the Rangers in round two and get stomped because they can't score. Um, is
Yeah,
what it
not
is.
good takes.
So yeah, enjoy the games Friday night. I think both of us are in agreement on basically passing. I'll continue to one of these. I keep thinking one of these Toronto Florida games is going to go off the rails, and even though this one is the series is trending the opposite way, I'm going to continue. I keep getting one or two of the anytime goal scorers in my lottery ticket right. I had Nylander again, but I didn't single him, of course. I just am playing these lotto tickets like an idiot. Uh, but I think generally that game's a pass for us. Oilers, some overs. If Jonathan Quick is starting, run, don't walk. And then Seattle Kraken.
Yeah, Jonathan Quick starting and like could be a game script where the refs call a lot of penalties. That sounds not like a good recipe. Good recipe if you want to bet some of the Oilers power play props, I think, but
Yeah.
otherwise not a lot. Yeah, I'm getting excited about the potential of the Leafs coming back from 3-0 down. It would be the only way that they could ever snap out of this absurd, absurd run. I watched 4 days in October, the 30 for 30 the other
Oh,
day.
the Red Sox. Yeah. That
So my
ruined baseball
my
for me.
gumption's all up again.
Yeah. I mean, as like I said to you, Barry, we both were coached by Barry Trotz, and he would always tell us that the fourth is the hardest to win, and he's right. And yeah, my gut tells me this thing's going seven, so we'll see. Anyways,
I know, and it's funny because if it goes seven, the one team that could come all the way back and lose is the Leafs.
yep.
I'd be curious to hear, has anyone come back from 3-0 down and lost in game seven?
Yeah, Blackhawks against the Canucks.
Okay.
Alex Burrows.
Great. Okay,
Yeah.
that was from
Chris
3-0 down.
Campoli,
Okay.
former Islander, turns a puck over, finds his way to Alex Burrows, and he beat Corey Crawford, I believe, or was it whoever was in goal for the Hawks at the time. But Corey Schneider got in that series, I believe. It was a weird one. But yeah, on that note, we will see you again. We'll record again Sunday night, which means we could be previewing a game 7 for Leafs or Panthers. And
Hopefully
whatever else
some
is
more
left.
series than that.
Yeah, we'll see.
I hope the Kraken game 6, give us something.
Yeah, or they could all be over. I think so.
Oh, what a round that would be.
For Dick Martin, I'm Michael Leboff. Thanks again for listening to the Line Change, and we will see you again in a couple of days.